Shirley here with Sirius Talis Moon. This is Moon Hour Mercury Soul Night. And let's just put it that way. Sun is 11 degrees Virgo. Moon is 21 degrees Capricorn. And this is a continuation of energy reading because I just had a drop of Eurekas. Big shout out to Light from YouTube. And what I have been having a tremendous Eureka about is, and it's going to be very relevant for those of you who are targeted individuals. This is that the reason that people are being put into situations that are supposed to be or are traumatic is so that the life force can be harvested to steal the creative force, but not just the creative force, but also the ideas of the common people. And it can be skills, and it can be ideas, and it can be creative projects, whatever. Okay? And this is the difference between alignment and attunement to actually putting people through trauma to receive energy. Okay? For example, if I would listen to my colleagues or I would see a video, my nervous system would immediately attune. And then there are people where I listen to them and then I'm like, okay, I need to record an energy reading, or okay, I need to talk about that. And this is natural inspiration where they're a point of attraction, I'm a point of attraction, and the connection is mutually inspiring or one-way inspiring, and it just unravels into something that's creative. That's normal. But then there are people who work by putting other people in traumatic situations so that they can try to steal from them. And then this is also causing the repercussions that people like Light are talking about. Because what's going to happen is that a person will begin to see, hey, what's happening? Oh, there's a bigger problem here. There's a bigger problem here. And then begin to tend to those. So what's going to happen is that the targeted individual is just going to be leaning even more into their life path and unapologetically. So they're going to be even more unapologetically themselves, and all the attempts to mimic them are just going to fall like leaves in the fall. And this is why there's so many strenuous attempts, or what people call spiritual warfare. And it's not even about deliverance prayer. It's about standing in one's trajectory. And what is created is that those mimicry attempts are short-lived, and the energy that they need to invest is very, very, there's a lot of energy. And this is why they try to create traumatic events in people on a continuous basis. Now, what's even more annoying about people like me is that I'm not satisfied with like Rudolf Steiner of so-and-so aeons ago. I'm like, no, there were cloning experiments, people that went to satanic abuse, they went through becoming developing all those types of behaviors and being more susceptible to working with those dark occult, Kali Yuga, Dark Ages type of practices. Whereas the people that didn't go through ritual abuse, even if they were cloned, they did not develop these traits, and they went more to the trajectory of unfortunately targeted individuals. And so I don't buy the soulless people that can't create. Because if a child is born and tortured, they never really had any valid contact with any deity of the Dark Ages. Whichever name, whichever religion. They never consented because they never had, okay, they never had been exposed to the timeline where they are well nourished. At the same time, there are degrees of choice, so they're not a sovereign being either. And this is a concept that is very challenging to explain, but this is why people like me are even more annoying, because there are just people who say, they're clowns, clone. They're reptilians, they're soulless beings that can't create. They have deteriorated so much that they can't create. They sold their soul to there's nobody actually sells their soul to anyone, because that's something that is kind of like an invalid NDA. And so I'm even, people like me are even more annoying, because we don't give out that, oh, they're one of those Christian folks. And so, and thus, the level to which this being centered is going is something that is even more unnerving. And so what happens is that those intense attempts to put somebody through traumatic situations just going to cause themselves to express themselves more. Now what happens in the places where, let's say, one has to have a new channel. Okay? Now there's another channel and another channel and another channel. And those that try to put the person through dark energies, they have to digest their own dark entities and energies themselves. Because what they create is a person who is even more grounded in who they are, even more unapologetically. And then they came to put someone through trauma, they ended up traumatized. And it can look like, how come this person who says these horrible things is having those gifts? Well, they defend themselves. If you come to put someone through trauma, so much so that they will lose themselves so that you can get a little bit of their essence and get a short-lived success, as like rightfully said, then of course when they set the boundary, it's going to be a boundary. And of course, it's not going to be the anger that one can dedicate to those dark deities, because those dark deities can't digest the energy, because this is an anger that sets a boundary that's manifesting golden ages. And trying to get that person to the lower astral is kind of like trying to get a drop of oil to sink in the ocean. Now, what's going to happen is that people have short-lived success, and they depend on a subscription of trying to put the person, a targeted individual or person, through a lot of spiritual attacks, thinking it's going to get them somewhere, and they get a fraction and a fraction and a fraction. But instead of those fractions accumulating, they dissolve. And what's accumulating is the exposure of the actions that were taken to target individuals on MK Ultra-like projects to enslave humanity. But that's Dark Ages. There are certain strange attractors that are aligned with energy of Golden Ages. And so those people become less and less digestible, and then the way that they set the boundaries, okay, unfortunately they use, can be sexual boundary violation or whatnot, and they can't get to the person, so they try to things around. And then the person has to set another boundary and another boundary. And the more that they intensely focus and try to do those harms, the more they expose crimes against children, human trafficking, crimes against humanity. Now their energies become very visible, particularly if they already begin to take, and here I don't mean people can have like a channeling where two people will channel the same phrasing, and it's not because they're plagiarizing. And it can even be done by proxy, so they can try to get a certain person to say a certain thing. And they can try to imitate the people that this person is around. And they suffer the repercussions of their own traumas that they wanted to create for the individual. Now, some of them want to make it look like the individual is creating a perpetual trauma cycle. No! And each and every person who was involved with that, now it's like, hey, they work with Epstein, they're child traffickers, this person masturbate on pictures of children, they try to get to the essence of the child's self from a picture. And then they try to blame shift on the target individual. Also doesn't work. It's energy. And they try to imitate the energy and so on and so on. And then they just look, sound, and are vibrating on a frequency that's being put, that a boundary is being put to. So what happens is this unwanted presence, and then they feel unwanted, disincluded, rejected, okay? All the traumas that they wanted the targeted individual to feel, now they feel that instead of the targeted individual. While the targeted individuals begin to embody their life trajectory more and more and more and more and more. Some people have a life trajectory where by bringing golden ages, they are exposing what was done to children. But this is also where it gets intense, because there are many forces that operate and have to come to a reckoning that to those strange attractors figures or targeted individuals for some are very obvious. If one person was doing sex offenses against children and they go and juxtapose this famous person and say, oh, they are war criminal, they are this, they are that, that strange attractor is simply going to say, but so are you. And then they try to blame shift on the targeted individuals. No. So what comes crashing down is the entire dumb fuckery called MK Ultra. And then what happens? Every time something like that happens, think about it, makes a lot of noise. So everybody around in the astral, in the energy, and even real people notice there's something happening, and it doesn't look like the way that those who target the individual want it to look like. And so they try to gather people that are going to agree with them, but the targeted individuals make more sense. Particularly those that don't fall into, oh, these are people, the beings that lost their creative power, reptilian beings. And it's like, hey, Falcon, you've been ritually abused. You deserve lifelong compensations from MK Ultra. It's gonna be way more yielding than putting your entire life and being trying to be someone that you are not. And then they try to blame shift it on the targeted individual. Again, no, no. And so all of their achievements are short-lived. And then what happens? Because the traumas that they have to put people to get to their energy are so intense, they're exposed as human trafficker, war criminal, child trafficker. And now it's getting really, really, okay, to the point where the repercussions begin to be bigger and bigger and bigger. Particularly if certain people plagiarized ideas or begin to create something, but that something does not align with your original idea. Now, some of these people have karmic rope moon with one another. So what happens? Loss of ideas. Then they try again. Loss of ideas. And so the more they are focused and intent on trying to put someone through those karmic cycles, the more their timeline is falling like leaves from a tree. As the targeted individuals just step into their own true self even more. And all the attempts to mimic them, to duplicate them, to plagiarize them, to steal something from them, okay, with the energy or whatnot. What they create is where, let's say you heard somebody and you heard a certain energy within them and you're like, who's that person? That was interesting. Now the viewers manifest seeing the original. They're like, hey, who's that energy? And then a person talks, they don't sound so good, then they sound great. And then they don't sound so good. Then what happens? All they try to do is to switch, to shift the blame. Stress, stress, stress. What's going to be? What's going to be? What's going to be is that those that build themselves upon traumatizing people and looking like they are the original creator lose everything that they build on those tactics. You see, because, for example, I can listen to light and have almost the exact synchronistic channeling. I will have my own very unique phrasing. Light will have her, or any other person will have their own very unique expression. And there would be a different trajectory. I explain things in terms of, let's say, chaos theory, because these analogies or phrasings are closer to my world. Somebody else talks about Christ and Antichrist, somebody else about the Godhead, and that's the original flow of the energy of people. And there's a difference where somebody say, hey, this that's and this, oh, I heard a colleague of mine, oh, that I got from that person. Okay, that's not a person who plagiarizes. That's like, oh, that's a tune that they got this from that from that, and they acknowledge that, which is different to people just saying something not in context where the other person in the room, let's say, you speak with someone who is a friend of someone that both of you know, and you know that that person has a tendency to say that, So you're like repeating what they said, knowing that that person in front of you is gonna know that you refer to that saying. No, I'm talking about a situation where, let's say it's broadcasting as like complete and utter and total genuine plagiarism. Sometimes by proxies, it can look like a person is getting a term channeled, and you see that that person is all in all original. They just got that term channeled by proxy. So what's happening is that what is built on putting people through trauma is short-lived and does not become a legacy, and particularly not in the age of Aquarius. Now, authentically speaking, in the dark ages or in the previous ages where it was not golden age, those things did become a legacy. So, okay, and that's important, because this is why people still act in ways that are of a certain timeline. And I'll say even more than that. To the people that are going to go to the dark ages, those short-lived segments, if something's going to stay from that, if they might have their legacy. But with the golden ages, that's not going to go. And so they're going to end up with the lizard to say, hey, the humanity is doomed. While the rest of the folks are going to be perhaps slower, but they're going to say, hey, humanity is actually going to a better trajectory. And so the more they try to perpetuate these cycles, what happens? Those that try to perpetuate the cycles, they get exhausted. While the targeted, or the people that just stand in their light, just begin to express themselves more or in new ways and to create more. And understand that, let's say something was taken from them, not only will they retrieve that, but they will retrieve that even more refined. And so the more the people that try to take from are showing their sinister side, what's happening, and this is where it gets confusing, as I spoke earlier, is that those strange attractors are just going to be themselves. And they're just going to shine the light. You see, if a person is a member of a society that comes to take away rights of humanity, they can't just say, oh, just leave me alone, when a person is standing for their rights. They don't get the privilege to say that. Or like, hey, you're gonna have to accommodate for the person to have their own life, their sovereignty, their living space, not in a Hitler-like way. Soil to grow food, a dwelling, the freedom to travel, the freedom to participate, and the freedom to not participate. So there is also, hey, it's not only the people come to take, it's like, hey, what they're building, are they building a world where people even want to be in? Well, if it is the Kali Yuga, no. And they try to take from the golden ages to create the Kali Yuga. And that's the eureka that I just had, which is kind of like, hey, no, it's golden ages. You don't take from the golden ages to build something that is not even supposed to be maintained. That's a world that nobody wants to live in. And it's also for individuals to acknowledge their light, to stand in their light, to express themselves even more, even less apologetically. And to set the boundaries and standards. And the more people try to, you know, constrain, what happens is actually the more free a person even show themselves. And this is where the splitting of the timelines is. There are people that are channelers, whatever they do in life, the channelers of the golden ages. Like, hey, we're going something better. And there are people that try to take from that timeline, which they can't digest, and build a world that nobody wants to live in. And so what ends up happening is that those that putting people in the timelines that they're not belonging in is becoming more costly and not economic, and this is how oppressing people becomes not economic. Because it's kind of like, even for those energies, and even when they come to traumatize a person, they meet severe boundaries. And that's what I talk about when I talk about golden ages. Now, for some, it takes longer than others to understand that, hey, they met an energy that's going golden ages. Wow. And they might blame shift or make it look like the golden ages channeling person is, how should I say, attached to the idea or trying to change or trying to transform or trying to mold someone into what they're not. No, they just, and that's what's so unnerving, because the people that are just channelers of the golden ages or kind of like a strange attractors, they're just going to be, and the energies around them are going to get unnerved, because they want that black and white dichotomy of doing of the good things and the bad things, the light and the dark. And here's a person telling them, well, you were born light, but what about clones? What about them? Let's go all the way with you. Let's say you were a robot. Let's say you were an air conditioner, okay? Ain't nothing wrong about you. You went through ritual abuse and had to perpetuate certain things. Now, no contract that you signed was valid because you went through ritual abuse. It's like an invalid NDA. Now, somebody might try to get at you when you begin to speak up. Yeah, that also happened to the strange attractors. And then people can grow the strange attractor within them. It's not that they grow that. It's like everybody is a being, whether they were cloned or not, and they have a birthright. And if they commit offenses, everybody has the right to set a boundary to those offenses. But they also have to accommodate for the life and for the living. So that potential can be very unnerving to people that want it one way or another. Tell me, am I the devil or am I an angel? Tell me I'm the devil. Tell me I'm a Nazi war criminal, child offender, da 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 da. Then the strange attractor goes, you're a Nazi war criminal, blah blah blah. You will die. You will be in brother graves. Children will laugh on your grave because you raped. Then the next is like, or just don't rape. I don't know. Seems like a good idea. I was thinking like, don't, like, it's a possibility. Don't rape children. Don't rape people. Don't come here in the astral masturbating on a child picture. A possibility. I can't decide for you. So there are people literally asking the strange attractor to tell them who they are. And then there are the people that want to not have repercussions to the things that they did. Like, yeah, it's like, if you out there trying to rape children, some child might kill you. Some child might call all the heavens in the heavens in the heavens and summon a spirit that's gonna like some, I don't know. Shit like that can happen, right? So particular now, the people that are used to get away with when they meet those strange attractors, like, what's happening? We're supposed to be getting away with. It's like, you have reached Golden Ages gate. It's a different gate. It's not MK Ultra gate. It's not Gates. It's not Stargates. almost approximation. It's the gate to the golden ages. Then a person tries to go through that, get wait. Some people can see it as the people that come out from the cave. And they say, who do you think you are? Do you think you are the sun? Do you think you are the this? Do you think? And then when they go out of the cave and they get used to the sight a little bit, they see, I don't know, a beetle. It's like, you're just a beetle. But it's exciting because it's like, hey, you see something outside of the cave. Moon 22 in Saturn hour. Now those trauma timelines begin to dissolve. And then the people that try to create those trauma timelines, now some of them are just witnesses of trauma timelines beginning to dissolve, and they might turn into satanic ritual abuse survivors by the merit of those encounters. So people, and sometimes I don't know what, sent to target individuals. The targeted individuals become more themselves, shine their light even more. They stay in their timeline, then the timeline around them is shifting because they're the strange attractor. And it's like, oh, this person can change the timeline. No, they didn't. You sent a timeline they were never subscribed to. So the timeline, the false timeline that sent their way is beginning to dissolve. It's like, hey, the timeline that you're trying to create is not really it. And I was like, yeah, well, we told you to change your story. Yeah, but if I change my story, you try to make it a story that I don't want to be in from the words, or take it in from the story. It's kind of like, hey, the strange attractor just became a strange attractor. And it's beyond words, it's beyond details, it's beyond intentions, it's a point of attraction. And people are like, how do they manifest? How do they just are? And so people around them begin to either be themselves or be gone from their timeline. This is something that, and I opened this episode, I was like, hey, somebody looks like they're on a suicide mission. And they got to be cautious with that. Because the strange attractor is going to be the strange attractor. And if you try to put them through horrible things, it's kind of like the energy is scattered. So when it's scattered, words are scattered, this is scattered, that is scattered. And the timeline is scattered. They try to drain the energy. But what comes out, even if they get a fraction, it's short-lived. And they wanted the strange attractor to get crumbles. Now they have to live on crumbles, or either perish, or I don't know, perish from the timeline of the strange attractor. Now what is left is, you think about ripples. When you drop a stone to the water, the ripples. And those ripples are gigantic. And the ripple effect of, this is where people have near-death experience, and the ripple effect of the things they did good in their life carrying way more weight than other things. However, this is only true once they stopped trying to put people through trauma to take from the light of the other person and to make it look like it's their own. And that's the difference between when people cross over and they see the ripple effect of all their good deeds way outweighs what they did wrong. But the people that were busy trying to take other timelines, the good deeds that they did were another person, and so they very likely will be kind of like, I don't want to say credited because it's such a credit system and it's not how people, it's kind of like not how people ascend, but they're kind of like, they're gonna see that from, I will say credited because they're going to, because it speaks to a certain language and jargon that certain people understand. So they will very likely be credited for trying to get a hold of a good deed, even from a bad intention, because that's the approximation that they got to. And from their intense trauma timelines that they came from, that's an approximation of trying to embody a more loving frequency. Okay? And then perhaps they will heal in that timeline if they cross over, so they can regenerate their soul, which does exist even if they were cloned, even if they have other DNA or whatnot. Okay? All due respect to Rudolf Steiner, he wrote a while ago. And most of the people living on this planet, including myself, were born into certain somewhat fragmented timelines. So we talk about approximations. But as we go towards the golden ages, new teachings arise, and each and every person has their own original creative teaching to give the world, even if they're channeling the same topic. And even the people that want to steal from the light, on a level their soul has that affinity with that light, and that's why they want to steal that. Okay, they can recognize that this thing is something worthy. The way that they go about getting that is absolutely not correct. And from their legacies, it'll probably not hold, but it's not because they're being punished, but because, hey, they can do better than that. Not in the better this of like going into the dark, but hey, they can actually access the light by attunement rather than putting people through trauma. And some people say like they cannot. I'm like, okay, right now maybe they cannot. And so yes, the implications when people try to put people through spiritual attack, torture, rape scenarios, like all kind of trauma things, naturally You know, perhaps in the past we thought about, let's take Churchill, not Hitler. Perhaps in the past we thought about Churchill, hey, that was a victor of the Second World War. Now it's like he did a genocide worse than Hitler, and it was just like colored people. It was not necessarily better than Hitler. And the United States, well, the paperclip operation, they worked with Nazi and everybody Nazi, okay? And so the more we go into golden ages, the less ideation we had for the legacies that did hold place in those darker ages. Or the pre-darker ages where we can see something from certain trajectory. And if you think about just a couple of decades ago, nobody would think, oh, I will be, I don't know, Einstein someday. I would be, yeah, I would be, yes, Chamberlain. I would be, I don't know, so some leader someday. Most people are like, hey, I have no chance to be any one of them. I'll just live my life and enjoy a good time. Now combine that flax attitude with the natural childlike curiosity not lost, and you get an approximation of the golden ages. And this is why in the Kali Yuga, the dark things about those figures are exposed, because in the past people were idealizing, but they were not attached to that ideation, because they were not dreaming of being, there was not an inspirational figure as I'll be that person one day. In the dark ages, they already are. There are content creators that are more famous with celebrities than celebrities. We get to another long episode. And then when it comes to the golden ages, the being seen will not take away from enjoying life. Okay? And that's more like where the people that are already strange attractors are standing in the light. Now, sometimes there are also, let's just say, the bad actions of somebody are coming to the forefront because it's their time to deal with the change of trajectory where those actions are being done, and that's okay, which is a part of the golden ages. And some people even have problems with themselves because they realize that, hey, they were attracted to the child within the person. Oh, and then they see a picture of the child, like, oh, they're a pedo. They think about it, people go into the astral, trespassing, then they run into a picture of that person, but as a child, and they get turned on by the child. Now, if a person was satanically ritually abused, now they have to deal with that. Now, some of these people are not sex offenders. Some of these people are sex offenders in real life against children and adults. Now, people are just going to express themselves and put that in the light. Now, those supposedly invisible frequencies are being seen. And it might not even be seen by the strange attractor because they try to shift identities and so on. And the strange attractor might be like, I don't know who's who. Kind of reminded me when, okay, let's just, I'm going to say a name. Let's just take all that I said up until now, put it in one box. Now we open in another box. It's also a Pandora box, but we open another box. Remember the time in Spirit of Matter where I channeled Peter R. de Vries, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm channeling him or an AI or what is that. Okay, so the strange attractor is just going to be, well, I don't know. I mean, there's just like that in the air. But the people around, okay, the astral is crowded during spiritual war, during MK Ultra, with all kinds of people that astrally project to meet their loved one. You know, think about people in Palestine that astrally project to meet their family in Ireland. Like in a COVID lockdown, people astrally projected to meet their metamors in non-monogamous couples because they couldn't, they were okay in quarantine. And then there are people that astrally project to target individuals. Pretty crowded. Age of air. I don't know. Maybe that has to do with that as well. Telepathy, claircognizance, astral projection. Now, the strange attractors, some of them might not even astrally project. And the confusion around the strange attractor, sometimes they might be more isolated. Sometimes they might be with people. Sometimes it seems like, Light noticed that as well. It's like, oh, certain people seem to have the same energy shifting amongst them. He had a personality cult. And then what is happening with that is that the strange attractors are going golden ages timeline. And so even the ripple effect of just expressing oneself and, let's say, being in the light, but simply like just being. Being is something one can only do in the light. The mimicking of being is something someone can do in the dark. And they can be very centered and can be very, they can look like a strange attractor. But people gravitate towards them, they feel drained, whereas the strange attractor, people can feel scattered around them, or fog around them, or nausea around them, okay? And then they might say, oh, the strange attractor is a toxic person. Okay, stay away then. Once when I was writing Sugar-Free Lemonade, I had a complaint for someone that says, every time your name is mentioned, I get a trigger, and they were litigating me inside the university. We settled that on Valentine's Day, but that was just the case. There was nothing there. It was Valentine's Day, and they, some people have a solar return. I didn't know these people back then. These people's chart, so to speak. But they said they have a trigger every time my name is mentioned. I said we have a very clear solution for that. So, and they put that into trying to litigate me over the no money that I was making. I was a TA. There's no like whatever coffee or meal I was buying in that cafe that day.